Hi then guys, and welcome back to Running a Freelance Design Business. This is lesson 17, finding your first client. So in this lesson, we're going to help you find your very first client. So your first client is going to be the most important one because it's going to be the one that you get to try out all your different processes. You're going to pull them all together, your design process, the invoicing, the contracts, all that kind of stuff is going to come together into hopefully one very smooth and swift project. So we're going to help you find that first client because they're critical. It's going to be the very first taste of freelancing. So we're going to help you search them out. We're going to tell you about places where you can find them and how you can get going on your very first design project working for yourself. And it's important that you do this before really you start freelancing. Start looking around. Where can you find clients? Because if you don't have anything lined up, i.e. penciled in, then you're going to be in a little bit of a predicament when it comes to the end of the month and you've not had enough income from your freelancing, especially if you're working solely full-time freelancing. So where can you look for clients? It seems a bit of a strange question, but the first place that's great to check out is job sites. Now, on the Freelance Switch blog, there is a list of 99, in fact there's two lists, there's one of 99, another of 99 freelance job boards that you can go on. You can actually search out gigs. Now clients go onto these, put in jobs that they want doing, and you can apply to them. The only problem with that is there are lots of other competitors, so you're going to need to have some sort of real great pitch and a nice way of communicating with the clients. So sign yourself up to some of those. The biggest ones are the sort of Freelance Switch job board. That's got some great projects on there. I've picked up several jobs off there myself. That's charged per month, but it's very cheap, and for the amount of the sort of value your project's going to be, it's not a big problem. Then there's things like Elancer, there's Odesk, those sort of sites as well. You want to check them out. Pull out ones from the list, the ones that are briefly summed up there. Every single one's got a little notation about how big it is, so go ahead, sign those up, check those out. If it's your first project, experiment a little and be willing to just be a bit flexible because it's your first project. The job sites, the competition is quite fierce, so you may find yourself having to maybe be a bit more competitive on prices and things like that. But if it's your first few projects, then you may be willing to do that in order to get the clients. One thing you could try, and this seems deadly obvious, is just a direct approach. Now, how would that work? Well, you could go into local businesses we've talked about in the marketing section and just tell them you want to support local businesses. You've got some great sort of hook or USP, and just approach them directly. Now you could do that with local businesses, you could do it with family or friends, just anybody. Give them a business card, give them your portfolio if you have like a printed portfolio, and just directly be upfront. It's quite a confident thing, and you're going to need to be quite positive and confident to be able to do it, but it should work because directly you can answer questions and any interjections that people have straight away. So you can try word of mouth, because if you think about everybody that you know, they will know maybe 1,000 people. That's a lot of people, and some of those are going to be business owners, some of those are going to be people in positions such as heads of marketing at big businesses, and the chance of several people that you know coming up across design projects is very likely. So tell everybody what you're doing, give them business cards. If you have enough business cards, give them a couple each, send those out and start working through what you are going to do with them. Tell them what your plans are, and just ask them to be a little bit more attentive when they're at work. See if they can hear about anything that might need doing, design gigs and that kind of thing. Now, word of mouth works brilliantly because your family and friends want to help you out, so they'll be actively listening, and you've just literally no idea where jobs can lead to, where they can come from. A lot of the direct word of mouth stuff that I came across through family and things were really good jobs, and some of them became regular clients. Some of them were really interesting gigs to work on. So just tell your family and friends, they'll help you get your name out there, and that should work out brilliantly. Having said that, when you're working with family and friends, you want to think about putting a contract in place. And I know that seems daft because you think, well, they're my family, they're my friends, they don't need a contract. I trust them completely. And yes, you can trust your family and friends, but sometimes things come up with the third party that it might just get a little bit awkward, a little bit confusing. So set a contract up saying that your family and friend is literally only a referrer. Perhaps you might have said, well, if you get me any gigs, I'll give you a referral fee or a bit of commission. Make sure you note all that down in the contract So there's no problems, it's all in black and white when it comes to the end of a project. There can be no disagreements and everybody's signed into the contract just in case. And it just avoids any disagreements, any arguments and issues with then personal relationships. So even with family and friends, always use a contract. We've talked about contracts, or we will be doing. So make sure you use a contract. As well, if you're doing a job for your family and friends, because that is a brilliant way of finding your first few jobs. Maybe your uncle has a car business or your auntie runs a bakery. You might say, well, look, can I do you some flyers? Can I redo your logo? Do you some signage? Whatever kind of design you're into. You might say, can I help you out with that? Very likely they might say yes. And that's great, but again, put a contract in place. Make sure that it's a good job, because it's great to be able to fill out your portfolio with these kind of case studies, and they may expect you to be a little bit cheaper depending on your relationship with them, but that's a great way to pick up your first few jobs, literally just through your family and contacts that you already have. Another great source is the business and web forums on the internet. If you signed up to any sort of design forums, likely there's some job boards or job sections under those forums, as well as the kind of business forums. Those might have them if anyone's ever putting out tenders for websites, business cards, that sort of stuff. So sign up to them. One thing I will say, make sure you're a regular contributor first. Don't just go straight in applying for gigs. Make sure you build up a reputation on the forum. Make sure that you're well respected. That's the only issue with that kind of technique, is that it takes a bit of time to build up that reputation. But once you do, it's well worth it. People can see that yes, you are a good designer, you know what you're doing. You can do jobs for members on the site. That feedback filters through to the other members and gets you good reputation. So they're great. The competition's not so much, especially depending on the forums you go on. Just make sure you're registering on active, vibrant, really well supported forums rather than the quieter ones. And also think about targeting ones for your client niche in particular. So let's say you want to specialise in design for Fortune 500 companies. There might be forums for that, or you might want to do pilots. You might want to work with pilots. There's forums for pilots. There's literally forums for everything. So just make sure it's a big forum, it's got a good reputation itself, and that the members are active and professional. Now it's your first job. Just a quick bit of advice. Don't be tempted to just slash your prices because you're new to freelancing. Well, it's very tempting to do that because yeah, you want to get your first gigs. But remember, you are a professional, highly skilled designer. You don't want to be just cutting rates willy-nilly because it lowers your reputation. Yes, you can be doing someone a favour on the odd occasion, but in general, stick to your pricing, because if you've worked it out and you know what you need to make profit, there's no point cutting those jobs back. And as well, you'll find that the cheapest jobs you quote for are usually the most fussy, the most involved, and the ones that cause problems, whereas the ones that are towards the higher end generally run smoothly, clients understand a little bit more, and they're willing to pay for quality. You don't want to get into the situation where you're underpaid, overworked, and just generally not very happy. Finally, you've got social media. Now everybody's a social media user nowadays, and that does mean that when businesses, employees, that kind of thing are searching out for design gigs, quite often they'll turn to their social friends in order to be able to pick up references for designers. So what can you do? Well, you can actually use Twitter and Facebook, search out the words such as designer wanted, website needed, that sort of thing. And you can actually then start to reply to those messages, be a bit active and pick up those jobs. Now, a lot of the techniques we've discussed do take a little bit of time and effort, but you will see return on your investment of time. And obviously a lot of those are basically free. Apart from the job boards, the rest are very low cost, just time involved. So in this lesson, we have looked at all the different techniques you can use to pick up your first client. Your task for the lesson is to try a few of them. Go onto some job boards, sign up to the forums, and start the ball rolling on picking up your very first client. Next time on Running a Freelance Design Business, we'll be looking at selling yourself and winning the contract. Thanks for watching.